Hello there, and welcome back to the channel. I don't go out of my way to watch most reality TV shows. To be honest, I generally find it pretty brain rotting because they mostly revolve around nonsensical drama. I end up seeing parts of these shows when I bump into my sister watching them on her TV. I'll see what's up for an episode or two, then, I'll check out. However, there was one show that actually captured my attention. As I sat down one time, I noticed we were halfway through an episode and there was zero drama. They were actually talking about real estate. There were actually interesting things happening. It wasn't just people complaining about who slept with who. Then, when I saw Ryan Serhant start talking about the ethos of his agency, I knew I was watching a quality show.
It's gonna be good!
Owning Manhattan is easily the best reality show I have ever watched. Now, that's not to say that every other reality show is a heaping pile of garbage. Well, okay, maybe that's being a bit too generous to most of them. But in the current era of reality TV, Owning Manhattan is the only one I can truly recommend to people, and one of the only ones I actually want to rewatch. There are a lot of components to this, but here are the reasons why I think the show beats out the rest. Number 1, professionalism. Number 2, an actual focus on real estate. Number 3, Ryan Serhant's charisma. And number 4, actually good music. That one is very important. I'm going to go in depth on each of these to explain why this makes Owning Manhattan such a good show. And at the end of the video, I'll talk about what lessons YouTubers and other content creators can learn from this show too. Also, no, I am not sponsored to make this video. I just really wanted to talk about this show. But if anyone at Serhant ends up seeing this video, I'd be more than happy to work with you. With that out of the way, let's dive in.
Good evening, sir. Table for one, please.
The reason studios often favor reality TV is no secret. They are extremely cheap to make, which means it's generally very easy to make a profit from them, especially if they get a lot of buzz around them. However, this unfortunately means the actual quality of these shows is usually pretty low. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't need to see all these cinematic shots and crazy effects. You don't need a crazy budget to make a good product. I mean, we've all seen how bloated budgets is hurting modern Hollywood. But a lot of these reality shows tend to go for a very cookie cutter approach. Extremely basic cinematography, a heavy emphasis on interpersonal drama, skimpy clothing. You even get a lot of the same color palettes when it comes to the sets and promotional material. I feel like it's more acceptable to do this for a lot of these like romance shows, but for the real estate subgenre, this is not good. Now, I'll obviously talk about the real estate stuff in my next section, but when your real estate show turns into a high school drama, I cannot take you seriously. Now, Owning Manhattan isn't like a visual marvel, and sure, there's still drama here and there, but you can really tell there's hard work being put behind this. There's a certain sense of professionalism in both the show itself and in the way Ryan Serhant operates his agency. A lot of the examples I'll bring up might seem like small details, but all of these put together really elevate the entire show's experience. Even some seemingly minor adjustments show the care put into the work, and I have a lot of respect for that. So, what exactly am I talking about here? First off, Ryan Serhant acts as the host for the show. This alone is very different from the vast majority of new reality shows. Both his commentary and pursuit of specific deals act as an anchor for the show. One of my problems with many reality shows is how scattered things are. There are generally a lot of characters you follow, meaning there's a lot of plot lines these shows go through. Things end up feeling extremely messy because there's no main character you follow or root for. Turning the show into a game helps, but you still end up kind of picking whoever you vibe with. And personally, I lose interest really quickly with this formula because you just go in between tons of drama-filled scenes with no real sense of direction. I don't end up wanting to watch more seasons because it all just feels the same. This is not the case for Owning Manhattan. While there certainly are an array of characters we follow, it all follows under Ryan's direction. He'll give commentary on certain agents or a big property the agency is representing. Short side note here, I really like the animated transitions they have, going throughout different parts of the city. It really helps streamline the flow for all the characters and different plot lines happening throughout the season. I'll dive more deeply as to why Ryan is a great host in a later section, but this aspect alone really makes the show an engaging watch. I actually want to see what happens in future episodes because we're actually following a main character and their journey. The next big reason this is professional is because Ryan puts a lot of emphasis on ethos and work environment. I really appreciate what Ryan is trying to create at Serhant. Whenever someone closes a great deal, they'll write their names and the amount on a whiteboard. This is a great touch because it really encourages other agents to push themselves. They see that daily reminder to do so. Now, yes, obviously he only wants to hire the best of the best. Yes, if you're not selling and making money, you're not going to stay. But this doesn't necessarily mean you have to restrict yourself to old ways of thinking. You don't always have to adhere to rulebooks and quote-unquote proper form. What I appreciate about Ryan is that he works with people's strengths. For example, we see that Trisha wants to sell outside of Brooklyn. So she brings this up with Ryan, and he sets her up to sell the remaining portion of an expensive building in Manhattan. She puts in the work and ends up doing really well with her sales. This makes her portfolio look really good, meaning she now has access to an entirely new level of clients. Of course, this is because Ryan could see the potential in her and gave Trisha the support necessary to achieve her goals. He does this with all of his agents, and he actively helps them with deals when he knows they've put in the work. Ryan sees the potential in everyone, even if their methods aren't conventional. For example, when Jade wanted to sell this one complex, she decided to shoot a music video to display what the space could be turned into. Yeah, that's obviously not what you think of when you hear real estate. But Ryan was very supportive of this, and that's because Jade came up with a new and interesting way to market that property. And it worked. You can obviously still have your traditional types of deals, but it's cool to know that Ryan encourages new ways of selling, especially as it applies to tech and social media. But this doesn't mean he's willy-nilly to everything. He takes the actions of his agents seriously because they are a reflection of him and everyone who works at the agency. This is perfectly showcased with Jonathan's character. He has a very different approach to real estate, which is something Ryan actually admires. However, we see how Jonathan's lazy and arrogant attitude affect the reputation of the brand. I mean, did you really have to go on a podcast and trash talk an employee? Ryan gives Jonathan multiple chances to better himself, but at the end of the day, he had to let him go. Ryan doesn't care for the drama and unimportant nonsense. When people's ego and emotions get in the way of selling properties and tarnishing the agency's image, you're out.
There's plenty of other brokerages out there who don't care about professionalism, about ethics, about sales. They don't care.
Yeah.
This company's very, very, very different. You understand?
I really appreciate that he fired Jonathan for acting the way he did, instead of having 5 seasons of whatever the hell Christine was doing on Selling Sunset. Lastly, I wanted to mention the attire people wear. Look, I don't want to just berate people for their fashion choices. If we're giving it a $1.50, a lot of the quote-unquote standards society sets for fashion are pretty dumb and very erratic. I mean, one decade you're wearing clothes like you're the queen, the next you're wearing flapper style dresses to rebel against those harsh standards. All of that said, I feel there's a certain level of professionalism you should uphold when conducting business. When you're wearing skimpy or revealing clothes, I can't really take you that seriously, because it kind of comes off as you wanting all the attention to yourself or prioritizing certain nighttime activities rather than the business at hand. Look, to all the feminists who might be writing paragraphs in the comments, I'm not trying to attack body positivity or someone's confidence. If a guy tries proposing a deal shirtless or with a Speedo or whatever this is, I'd be saying the exact same thing. You don't always have to wear a suit or a super nice dress, but you should conduct yourself properly. And that's how I feel about the agents at Serhant. Most of the clothes are extremely presentable. I'd want to conduct business with these people. Again, the attitude comes off as paying more attention to the business at hand, instead of how many guys are simping for you on Instagram. Now, a lot of the other real estate shows have this problem of the agents wearing sus clothing, but this is indicative of a wider problem with them, which leads to the next reason why I love owning Manhattan.
Congratulations, Mr. Krabs.
Hello, I like money.
As I mentioned earlier, part of why I don't care for most reality TV shows is because there's a ton of unnecessary drama that's either super forced or extremely childish. I'm somewhat able to forgive this for the romance-centered ones, but for real estate shows like the Selling Universe, this is a big turnoff. The business doesn't really matter. It's all about who slept with who or people holding a grudge about stupid things people said. I can't really take anything seriously because it's just a bunch of women complaining about nonsense. Yes, there is some drama in owning Manhattan, but it is all directly tied to the inner workings of a real estate agency. For example, Jonathan and Jess go on a podcast trash talking Savannah, who is the new agent. This obviously causes a stir in the office, but the reason this plotline is interesting is because this impacts the image of the company. Why would clients want to continue business with Serhant if their agents are acting inappropriately? As soon as Ryan saw all this, he immediately turned that off. He pretty much forced everything related to the podcast to be deleted and made Jess and Jonathan apologize to Savannah. Not that Jonathan actually learned his lesson, but we all know how that ended.
You're fired!
We see how his antics continue to demean the brand over the course of the season. He pretty much roasts a couple of clients for their quote-unquote tax bracket, and now they never want to do business with Serhant.
I mean, this was the perfect place for my clients, and
And it still could be. It's still there. I'll beat you there, or we could sell it right now.
they specifically said, we do not want to do a deal with Serhant.
See, this is what I like to see. Not he said, she said stuff. Tension in the show isn't built up from stupid dialogue trees. Most of it comes from handling clients and how the agents manage that. Seeing people trying to close deals in a certain time or under a certain price is honestly really interesting. The quote-unquote drama that is sprinkled throughout is either resolved pretty quickly, sometimes within the same episode, or delves into the personal hardship agents face on the job. Ryan feels like he's doing too many things at once. Chloe and Niall compete to see who will represent the Jardine property. Savannah is fighting to pay rent like Spider-Man.
You'll get your rent when you fix this damn door!
Really, the only silly drama that's extended throughout the season is the feud between Jade and Chloe. But this doesn't really bother me too much because it didn't take up a lot of time. Plus, it does tie back to how they manage their everyday lives. Unlike other shows where the majority of the drama is just brain rot. I actually learned quite a bit about the real estate world because of owning Manhattan, and I have a lot of respect for it now. I feel like this show harkens back to other reality shows in the past, like Tanked or Treehouse Masters. However, while I still enjoy those shows, I like them more on an episode-to-episode basis. With owning Manhattan, I want to watch every single episode, and that's because I actually want to follow these characters. Most importantly, Ryan Serhant.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
As I mentioned earlier, having a main character to follow really anchors the show. But of course, we've all seen bad shows where the main character sucks. This is why Ryan Serhant's charisma works so well here. He uses a lot of quips during the filming, and it honestly makes it really fun to watch.
Do I look small yet? Hello? You know, you're basically closer to God up here.
Good selling point.
They don't edit your words to be like, hi, my...
Even in some serious situations, he always finds a way to lighten the mood. Like, for example, he gives Jonathan and Jess a stern talk after the podcast situation. Once Jess leaves his office, he practically looks at the camera and is like, is there anyone else I have to talk to? While he wants his brand to grow and be successful, he doesn't take himself so seriously that he feels arrogant or out of touch, which is a problem a lot of CEOs have. Now, obviously not everything about the show is directly about him. Like, yeah, we get a peek at a lot of different people, but ultimately this is all a part of Ryan's story. He's essentially the main character of the show, so with almost every plotline we follow, you end up rooting for the success of Serhant because it actually feels grounded to someone's life. I want the agency to sell the $250 million penthouse. I want to see Trisha succeed in Manhattan. I want to see what'll happen to Jonathan. Because not only are these grounded in character arcs, but Ryan's journey with his agency. You can see how this all personally affects him. He's invested so much of his life into this. Seeing his positivity and trying to extend that to his agents makes me interested in these stories. Not everything works out. Deals fall through, deadlines aren't met, but it's seeing the perseverance of Ryan and Serhant that invests me in the show throughout the season. None of this is to say shows like Tanked or Treehouse Masters are bad shows. I mean, I like that I can just pick up any episode, and we should have more shows like that. But Owning Manhattan has a sense of connective tissue where you're actually following character journeys. My favorite shows are a mix of episodic and serialized formats, and I think the show handles that quite well. I think the finale is really when this show clicked for me. Yes, obviously firing Jonathan was great, but I'm talking about the finale where Ryan's offered to sell the penthouse where Succession was filmed. I mean, when the guy was like, yo, what about selling the rest of the building, the other 300 million? I mean, you know, the music starts going crazy and, you know, the dialogue is going like insane. I mean, I don't care how scripted this was. This is just a really cool scene.
You're saying jump in your car and race up to the Upper West Side and come talk to me about selling out the rest of the building. I'm saying, let's fucking go.
Oh, come on! You gotta admit this is cool!
This dude looked way too smooth in his white tux. He's looking like the light side version of Kingpin. And I mean that in the best way possible. This kind of makes sense given he's trying to be the #1 agency in New York. So, you know, it fits. Okay, but like I briefly mentioned, what really elevated this scene and the show as a whole was actually good music.
That trilobite didn't know an oboe from an elbow. Elbow. More band humor.
Possibly my biggest pet peeve about reality TV shows is the horrible music. I guess it's to make a situation look more dramatic, but it just makes it sound more of like a comedy. Because for some reason, they usually insert the most cringe, like AI generated songs. The lyrics have the most vague and bland relation to the situation at hand. Again, it makes me laugh because it's just so bad. They always start with the beat drop too.
4. Okay, new theory. Maybe we should play so quietly no one can hear us.
Like, guys, can we get a bit more original with our song choices, please? Now, every once in a while, Owning Manhattan will have a song like this. I mean, I'm assuming, you know, whoever's editing this at Netflix just had to quickly insert something. But generally, the music is decent. And at times, it actually goes pretty hard. Particularly in the premiere and the finale. You got this cinematic music with drums, violins, you know, like this quasi-religious chanting. I mean, at times it feels like Duel of the Fates is about to start playing. See, now I'm starting to get pumped about real estate, which is something I never thought I'd say. The music adds a certain sense of gravitas that adds to the tension in these scenes. Yes, that fight scene in The Phantom Menace is great, but would it be the same without the amazing score? No. And that's the same thing here. Again, I'm not constantly annoyed by this like stupid like AI generated garbage. The songs and the music that are inserted in Owning Manhattan actually make me interested in what's happening in these scenes. In an age where drama and stupid corporate decisions seem to be the biggest seller of content, Owning Manhattan is such a breath of fresh air. I can easily say this is the gold standard for reality TV, because it actually deals with the business side of real estate in an engaging and palatable way. And even though I enjoy watching shows like Tanked, I want to see every episode of Owning Manhattan because I've invested in these people's stories. It's cool seeing how the business personally affects their lives. It's like seeing how being a superhero affects Superman or Daredevil. And I think this show gives a lesson to everyone who makes content, myself included. Look, obviously I love cinematic experiences like the Batman or MatPat's Final Theory, but not everything has to be on that level to still be good. I mean, it's just not realistic. You can make good products that aren't expensive to make. Quote unquote slop content can still be great to watch. I really like watching Moist Critical, who I've seen a lot of people consider slop. Sure, his videos don't have crazy effects or the best camera quality, but what I like about him is his humor and the wacky stories he comes across. Thor Skywalker's videos don't have a crazy budget. I mean, it's really just a lot of images and movie clips. But I love hearing his calm and nuanced opinions on Star Wars, especially in a fandom that seems to care more about extremes. What I'm trying to say here is that trying, actually putting passion and effort into a project speaks more than how much money or effects your project has. The Lord knows how many bad projects we've seen recently with incredibly bloated budgets. Hopefully, content creators and studios can learn from Owning Manhattan when approaching this lower budget content, because it does have the potential to be good or even great. You just gotta put in the effort. But let me know your thoughts on all this. Have you seen Owning Manhattan? What did you think of the show? Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.